Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon, David.
Now, as you know, Facebook restricted me the last time. I've had a word with them. They said they're not going to restrict me this time, so let's have a wee look, shall we? That's me just notified that we're live.
Yeah.
Edit privacy, public, save, and it is public now, so we should get Facebook on today. As I say, I had a word with them. They said they don't understand what happened. There must have been a glitch. Heard that, but it won't happen again. So let's have a wee look who's in. We're rattling up the numbers, David. That's 65 already, and that's just YouTubers.
Yeah.
Rosie, Bob,
Care, Harry Bendix,
Alistair, thanks for moderating today.
Robert Bruce, Chris Fisher, Archie Asimov. Wonder if he is.
He's mad. Willie's Bucket. And Willie's Bucket, just for information, there's only one vote at Westminster election, no SNP 1 and 2.
That's right.
And I believe somebody asked why the 4th of July. Stephen Bankier asked why the election is on the 4th of July, because Sunak's kids are registered to start school in California in August. I hope that explains
it. Do you think that Rishi Sunak is maybe aware that he's not going to be an MP for that area?
Aye.
Yeah.
Gillian, Melanie, Linda, Elizabeth V. Gates.
Don't forget the wee bird.
I know. I'm just checking with you. The Facebookers are in, David, because we've got a lot to get through the days, you know. And all these people will be anticipating when we get to the general election, but folks, we have other things to speak about first. And the first subject we're going to talk about is the release of the 2022 census information, David. We're going to cover 3 sections in the census. We're going to talk about identity. We're going to talk about religion. And we're going to talk about language. Okay. On the language thing, we'll just give a rough update on where we are. Okay. Now, and we'll talk about that. A funny little quirk that we're being forced to use here is Duolingo as opposed to bilingual, and we'll go into why that is. Okay. Right. Now, we're happy to get underway then.
Yes.
Right, so here we go. The census 2022 has just been released, and the UK government has a fair bit to worry about, as do religious groups and the Scottish government. But we'll go into that a bit more. Right, now, for the UK government, the problem they have is that the people in Scotland are ditching Britishness and the dual identity of Scottish British at a rapid rate of knots. The people who identify as Scottish only now up to 65.4% from 62.4%. So that's a 3% increase in those.
Do you feel that? Do you feel that could go up from that point as we approach maybe the election? The consensus of people going, well, no, I'm Scottish. Yeah.
Well, we'll see, David. But what we do know is that 13.9% of the population here in Scotland say British other, which tells you the amount for the population of Scotland will come from other parts of the UK.
Yeah.
Now, in the census data, they don't break it into in the summary, they don't break it into what the others actually mean. You know. Now, we have got 8.2% of the population in Scotland identify as British only. Sorry, that's 8.2% identify as British only.
Well, we see them every time. We see them every time that you do a march. That's the wee group of blokes with the Union Jacks.
As I say, there is a lot to be concerned for each of the governments here, because one of the stats that's going to worry the Scottish government. Now, the UK government, they've got to worry about the amount of people who have ditched the dual nationality thing and will identify as Scottish only. The big problem for the Scottish government, and it is really out with their control, is that we went to 86.1% white to 87.1% white here in Scotland. And that's because of inward migration from other parts of the UK. As people sell up in England and Wales, who are pretty well off, and move here for better public services and their retirements.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the main stats when it comes to the identity thing. You know, as I say, an additional 3.1% of Scots have ditched the idea that they're British in any form whatsoever. So we have a majority situation where the majority of Scots now do not associate with being British at all. Now that tells us that this identity is being foisted on them against their will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's unattainable, that's unsustainable for the UK government, as you know. Because eventually, as we know, and the polling showing that the Yes movement itself has gone from strength to strength, even though they're trying to claim that the SNP are going backwards. But we'll get to that a wee bit later in the programme, because you and I have ran through the stats, and the polling hasn't changed in 12 months according to the poll of polls.
Yep.
You know,
it's stuck on round about 3%.
Yes.
Thereabouts.
But we'll get to that, because you and I did the sums to work out how many people that is, because the 3% is based on the UK population. But we'll get to that. Let's move on to religious groups. Fuck me, they've got problems if they know.
I'm still a Christian. I don't care what you say. I'm still a Christian, right?
Yeah, but to put you into that 5.1% others, I'm going to run through the stats just for fun. This was the one that blew them all away. 51.1% of Scots now say they have no religion whatsoever.
Yep.
But if you throw in the 6.2% that ignored the question, then you've got 57.3% who don't have religion.
Yeah.
Because when you ignore the question, that basically says you're not interested in the question, so you're probably not religious either. But anyway, let's have a breakdown of the faiths and the problems. Well, the big problems for the Church of Scotland, of course, over the decade, they have lost 50% of their members.
And they definitely have spent the last half century pushing hard to get young people into the church.
Yes.
And all of their strategies have fallen aside, just haven't worked.
Anyway, of course, Church of Scotland is still the major religion here, but it has half. It's now only 20.4% of the population going to be members of the Church of Scotland.
You would have thought that during the pandemic, being such a if you like a dark cloud over the population, that more would have turned to religion over that period of time, but seemingly haven't bothered.
Anyway, the Church of Scotland has taken the worst whack. So the BBC, because the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland was meeting when these figures were released, they get a grip of the new head of the Church of Scotland, can't remember what the name is, and they're talking about it, and they says, well, it's demographics. We can't get the young in. We're trying, but we can't get them in. We're doing outreach and all that sort of thing. Thing is, what David, as we know, people are moving further and further away from religion. So the top religion in Scotland at 20.4% of the population is still Church of Scotland. 13.3% of the population state that they're Roman Catholic. 6.2% of the population ignored the bloody question and didn't state a religion at all. 5.1% of the population is like you, David, you're in the other Christian group. Right, but that's the wee Frees, the Presbyterians, the Mormons, that sort of thing. You know. That's if Mormons are Christians, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, right, 2.2% profess to be Muslim. 0.6% profess to be Hindu. This is a new category, David, and that is 0.4% profess to be pagan, and that's 19,000 Scots profess to be pagan. 0.3% of Scots profess to be Buddhist. 0.2% express themselves as Sikhs when it comes to religion, and 0.2% state other religions like Wiccan You know, they won't recognise Wiccan. They'll recognise paganism, where Wiccan is part of paganism, I think. Whereas, because I don't know that much about paganism, but they won't recognise the witches. You know what I mean? Aye, done. And here's the thing: the smallest religious group in Scotland. Guess what it is, David?
What's that? Go on.
The
What's this
Jews.
one?
The
Jews.
Jews.
Oh yes, yeah. We were discussing that, and it's like you probably find most of the Jewish population in Scotland live up the Ayr Road, coming out of Glasgow. You know,
Well,
and it's
anyway, only
you know
0.1% of the Scottish population are Jewish. That fascinates me.
yeah.
You know, when they talk about increased anti-Semitism in Scotland, who the hell's at the edge? There's everybody here. The Jews.
Oh.
No.
Oh, appreciate that.
Now, on the language section of the census, the amount of people in Scotland who are now duolingual, because we're not allowed to say bilingual, is up, and that has to do with the Gaelic medium, right? There is an increased amount of the population who claim to be proficient in Gaelic. I wonder how many of them are or have some skills in Gaelic. I wonder how many of them are pro-independent supporters who have learned to say Ma and Alpha Gubra, you know, or Cirrhosis, or Sur Alpa. You know, I wonder how many of them are these people, you know. But anyway, we do know that the Gaelic medium education has flowed onto the mainland. But what we have found is that the amount of Gaelic speakers in the indigenous areas they come from, the Western Isles, is down.
Yes.
But that's as people have to leave the Western Isles to secure long-term employment, education, that sort of thing.
And that's sad. And that is a sad situation where kids have grown up in a lovely rural situation, suddenly find themselves in a situation of what am I going to do to earn a living here?
That's right.
You know, it's cruel. It's wrong.
Hi, Daily Blase, folks. Tune into Daily Blase's show. It's brilliant. He covers all the select committees and the Commons Chamber.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant at it, actually. He picks out all the wee snippets that we all miss. Because he does a bit like me. He trolls through fucking everything. And my young brother, he put me, this just a wee segue here, David. This will not take long before we move on to the next subject. And my young brother put me onto this Lords Select Committee, where Alistair Jack was being it was on a devolution, you know. And my young brother got a bit uppity about the Territories Office that the Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish governments will go to if they want to pass legislation. Remember, the name of it is the UK Territories Office.
Yeah, yeah.
The interesting thing about it is, right, there is a Territories Office for England.
Right, yeah.
Right.
As you would hope.
There is. And it's the UK's Territories Office. That includes overseas and here on the mainland.
Yeah.
So, but what's unique about the Territories Office is the Scottish Government, the Welsh Government, the Northern Irish Government who apply to the Territories Office, who then refer it to the Scottish Office, who then refer it to Westminster before they can change fucking legislation. Now, my young brother read that as meaning we're a colony, but we already know we're a fucking colony. Right, let's get back to business. So, the Duolingo thing, it's because they refuse to recognise it as a proper language. They call it dialect, even though it's a different language. It's a bit like how they treat the Scots language. So, if you, like us, we speak Scots and we speak English.
Well, if you imagine, it's like, okay, there is this thing like the Scots language, like Doric, that we can identify as a different language in its own right. But I mean, the Glaswegian accent. There's certain words in Glaswegian accent you go and I'm from Glasgow, right? So, and I've got no argument with people learning a language like Gaelic or French or whatever, right? But you'll find it'll be the kids that direct us in the future. And what they'll do is they'll want to speak in the language that they see on the internet, on the wider internet. And that'll be, I would imagine it'll be some form of English, It could even be some form of Chinese. Yeah. So we've got that to look forward to. So I would send your kids to a school that teaches Chinese. What's the Chinese language again? What is it? Cantonese? Yeah,
Mandarin.
yeah.
Mandarin.
Yeah, Mandarin, yeah.
Eh. Right, eh. Where was it? The duolingo thing. It's because
Yeah.
they don't. We're not allowed to call them bilingual if you speak Scots and English. We're not allowed to call it bilingual if you speak Doric in English. We're not allowed to call it bilingual if you speak Gaelic in English. So everybody on the BBC and the mainstream media calls it duolingo.
Yeah, yeah,
Talk about keeping the people down, suppressing the culture.
yeah.
They don't even recognise our languages, although the rest of the world recognise our languages. Nah, I'm not doing that, Lord. Hi, Sir Larry. I loved your tweet, by the way. We'll get to that when we get to the general election section. I thought it was hilarious. I really did. Hey, folks, if you don't know, Sir Larry runs a mental X. They call it X now, didn't they? Previously known as Twitter page. He's brilliant. Hey, right, let's move on, David. Swinney's talked to Parliament yesterday, and he tells us that his top priority is going to be alleviating child poverty. Now,
Do I know, sir? I've got no arguments with him alleviating child poverty, because child poverty in Scotland has been a major issue for getting on now, what is it, 15, 20 years, right?
actually, those islands, it's been an issue for
Yeah,
hundreds of years, but
yeah,
we've been tackling child poverty and actually successfully bringing it down here in Scotland since
yeah,
devolution.
yeah.
It's one of the
The
things
child
that
payment, the child poverty payment they give, £25 a week for each child. Yeah, I think is marvellous. It's a fantastic way of directing money directly to where it needs to go.
Yep.
Right?
Anyway, he's going to carry on with more of that. He then goes on to tell us that he's going to grow the economy. We've already discussed this. We've discussed this. We don't know how he's going to do that. But the only thing, you and I, when sensible people look at this, the only real weapons we have to make Scotland a place of interest for outside investment is a highly educated, well-trained population. That's the best we can offer. We don't control corporation tax. We spoke about this last time. We don't control immigration, so we can't increase the size of our workforce, that sort of thing. So this idea they're going to grow the economy and tackle the cost of living crisis is pie in the sky. But what he does do cleverly is link them all to independence.
Okay.
You know what he states. I'll go down there. Mr. Swinney says Scotland's finances have been affected by inflation, Brexit, and UK government austerity, as he calls for Scotland to be able to chart her own course as an independent nation in the EU. So what he did, it was he linked it all together. Who's in the naughty step? Thomas, naughty step. You're forgiven, Thomas, because you put me on to Seamus, so you're all right. Right, so his priority is tackling child poverty and growing the economy and basically fixing the mistakes of the Westminster government on the economy and things like that. And he says the way to do it is independence. Right, so after this, he's challenged on the BBC on the SNP's finances and on sticking to Whom's a Yusuf plan. Because we're all hearing, especially Alex Salmon and all them, that it's being kicked into the long grass. But he's tackled on the finance, and this is something we want to talk about the moving off. The BBC reporter tells John, you've got 1 million black hole in your campaign fund. And John says, we'll go to the candidate selected. All the deposits are fine. Any money we need for campaign materials will go to the membership. And as you know, David, this is the time when you and I have to get checkbooks. So.
Yeah, something as that. It's like I give a splodge of money and you give a splodge of money, and that's it. Simple as that. And it might be we've still got our membership payment going in, right?
Yep.
But you've got to look at if you want a proper campaign from the SNP, and you want the SNP to do well in this election, get your hand in your pocket, dig
There's
deep.
84,000 members. Well, actually, there's more now because we know there's an influx of recently. But there's 84,000 members.
Yeah.
Let's take it to the last official figures. 84,000 members at a tenner a head. There's 840,000.
Correct. And on that, you can actually run and win an election campaign.
But as you know, David, it'll be more than that because you and I normally throw £100 a time in the pot.
Correct.
You know, and there'll be people here in our audience which will throw £100 in the pot and all that, Anne and Nancy and people like that, you know. So they'll make that £1,000,000 no bother. In fact, a lot of them have missed it because recently I had the raffle tickets not out recently.
Yeah, well, what's the old saying? If you want to help a man who's suffering poverty, right? You can give him fish. You can actually give him fish, and that'll keep him alive for so long, right? Whereas if you teach him to fish, give him a fishing rod, then you can actually catch the fish forevermore, right? It's the same with the election, with the campaign. You have to understand that if you give you might want to give £100 to a charity to help Waynes in poverty. However, let me finish. However, if you give £100 to the SNP to actually win the campaign and we become independent, then you've helped them all forevermore. Sorry, David, carry on.
Lorraine saying yesterday, because I've heard this interview, she said I donated a tenner yesterday, so I can afford but every penny. Lorraine, if we all give you a tenner, that's enough to fund this campaign.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford to give a tenner in one go, stick £2 into next month, and then £2. £4's better than nothing.
Yep.
So, you know.
Well done, Lorraine. Well done,
folks. It's up to us, the members, if we want to win this bloody election. And we're going to get to that in a minute. Where is that one? Oh, aye, we're going to cover that under Dougie Ross and Daftars.
Who?
Dougie Ross and Daftars poverty pipe. The one that keeps getting knocked off his perch by his imperial master down the road.
Yeah.
Anyway, if we want to win this campaign, we're going to have to do what we always do, and that's just stick our horns and our focus.
Yeah.
You know. So, but his main point was that he's going to link all these things that needs to be sorted in Scotland and the independence. In that interview where they talk about the black hole, they then go into challenge him on sticking to whom's the Yusuf's plan for the route map to independence. Now, he said, yep, we're sticking with it. And majority of MPs will expect Westminster to give effect to the democratic will of the Scottish people. What John didn't do, which Humza did do, was going to state how he was going to give that democratic effect to the will of the Scottish people. That's the bit we have to worry about. But up until now, he's been sticking to the line quite well. No. And it was also made clear that line 1, paragraph 1, a SNP manifesto for this election will be a vote for the SNP as a vote for independence.
Yes.
That way, it's not in doubt, it's unequivocal. The party have stated in their manifesto, and that's generally how these things should be done. Right, Scottish Greens must choose party's future, says Lorna Slater. Slater says they went backwards by leaving the coalition government with the SNP. She also states that Humza, after all the fuckers kicked up, she's also stated in reflection that Humza probably had to fire the starting pistol getting shot at him because of the pressure from her members over the scrapping of the 2030 net zero targets.
Yeah.
So basically, finances mean they couldn't keep going at the 2030 targets. They're going to have to still try and meet the 2045 target. But they weren't going to meet the 2030 target. Stats out and showing us after the Rain Climate Committee.
Yeah.
You know, and it showed that they hadn't been able to throw the money in that they'd promised because, let's face it, through a cost of living crisis, we're going through a cost of living crisis. Every spare penny is going out to the public.
Yeah.
You know, because people don't understand it. Also
the big story regarding these targets and all the rest of it is that the big corporates are not playing with it. They're not contributing to that net zero target. They say they're doing this wee bits here and there, but the big things They're just blooming going, no, don't care.
Well, that's
We'll never
interesting
care.
because what she said with John's drive for growth of part, which she says they'll continue to support the SNP and their policies as long as it's the right type of growth.
Yeah.
In other words, green growth. All right, or growth in the green
I
economy.
personally think the Greens have just committed political suicide.
Well, we're about to get to that because she also says she could work with the unions in a rainbow coalition, she calls it.
Right. Yeah.
And she says that the members will also have to reflect on their position on the Constitution.
Yeah.
Now, as we know, at this point in time, saving the planet is more important to the Greens than getting independence, even though both of them are linked as far as Scotland's concerned, because energy policy is reserved.
Yeah.
But they're going to reflect on their position on the Constitution as well. As you've just said, David, it looks like they've committed political suicide. And well, on their committee admitted that who's had no choice but to break the coalition. You go to wonder why they brought them down.
Yeah, well, if you want to control certain things to do with the climate or whatever, you've got to have the power to do it. And to have the power to do it, you have to be an independent nation with an independent government serving that nation.
Aye. So the Greens have got a lot of questions to ask themselves. But on reflection, she says, whom I really did have much choice but to pull the trigger. It must really have been how he done it.
Yeah.
I don't know what he said to the two of them. But the Greens are now accepting the fact that Hoops didn't really have a choice because their membership are going to tell me quit it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing the Greens have said is they're now going to up the amount of money they're going to lose in the general election because there's no fucking polling like the Alpha Party. I could see the Greens not just having committed political suicide with such a small membership and going to put out so many candidates, they could well fucking bankrupt themselves at all. Mental. What else did she have to say for herself? She also reminds the people of Scotland that if we want Scandinavian style public services, and we do, and we are working towards it with a better social contract, then we're going to have to pay Scandinavian level taxes. You can't argue with that.
Right. But the thing is, though, if you look at countries like is it Denmark, who have got the highest level of let's call it customer satisfaction. They've got very, very high taxes, but the amount of public services that are given to the individual is incredible. You know,
but you know, David, what they did to be able to generate that sort of tax revenue was they regulated their market.
Yeah.
It's still a marketplace, but it's a well-regulated marketplace.
Yeah.
And that's important because there's wealth taxes on business owners and things like that, and they must put X amount back into their communities and all that sort of thing. They can only earn 75 times more than the lowest paid person in the company, that sort of thing. Yeah. You know, the markets are regulated, so the greed's no there.
Yeah.
So it's more public minded. Right. And as I say, she would consider a Butte House style agreement in the future, even with the unions.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that's going to be a political suicide, because when it comes to Scottish elections, they're doing nothing in the general election. But when it comes to Scottish elections, they've relied heavily on the second vote for the SNP to get where they are. They ain't getting it now. They just not getting it.
Yeah.
And I think they know that. But they have got 2 years to mend the fences.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on. Dougie Ross and Sarwar are boasting that between them, they're going to relegate the SNP a minor party in Westminster again. They're going to overtake the SNP in Scotland, the pair of them apparently. Right.
And David, quite frankly, do you see that happening?
No, David, because you know I monitor the polls. I went through it with you today. We went through the last 12 months worth of polling, right across the board.
Yeah.
On the polls. In fact, for about 15, 16 months, it hasn't moved.
Yeah.
The SNP and poll polls, folks, so you understand, in the poll polls, what it gives you is, because it's a general election, they give you UK population share who intend to vote for each party.
Yeah.
3% is what the SNP are getting. Now, what we have to do is extrapolate that, break it down, and put it into the Scottish figures. Now, David and I worked out that 3% of the UK population was 1.98 million Scots.
Call it 2 million, just for because there's that degree of movement on the polls. Call it 2 million.
2 million. There's just under 4 million people eligible to vote, or there would be for the Scottish election, but because it's a UK election, 16 to 17-year-olds are excluded.
Yeah.
And as we know, we'll probably only get a 60% turnout.
Yeah.
Now, if we can get all the SNP support out, and it's more likely because they did tend to come out, although they did not come out on the relevant by-election. But if we can get them out in the general election, then it will be a landslide for the SNP at 1.98 million votes.
Mm.
Because that's 3% share of the UK population, 1.98 million. We did the sums.
Yeah.
And if they come out to vote for the SNP, it's going to be a landslide.
Mm. Yeah.
An absolute landslide. So
I mean, just to put my tuppence worth behind that, do I feel secure that people that are not SNP members but just vote SNP are going to come out and do it for the SNP and vote for them? Well, what's on our side is that time of the actual election is the 4th of July. It's very, very short. It's a very, very short time before that actually takes place. People in England, by and large, have already got their kids' holidays booked abroad.
Listen, right? No, that's the people in Scotland. We start our holidays early, but I don't want to talk about the GE till I get to the GE announcement. And what we talk about, these two idiots claiming they're going to get rid of the SNP at this election, because it lets us look at the poll of polls being monitored by the BBC. And what they do is they take all the polls, and they extract what they do is they take the mean average, and the mean average is the SNP on 3% of the UK population, 66 million, 3%, 1.98 million people, landslide. Absolute landslide if they all get out. What it also tells us is that the local polling that we're being told has Labour and the SNP neck and neck must be bollocks.
Hang on, can I just correct some people? Look, it's like, here we go again. Millie Jamieson has put up SNP 1, any other independent 2. There isn't 2 votes this time. This is the general election. You have got 1 vote. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
It's a first past the post system. You vote for the party, and that's it. You vote either SNP, Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, Green, and any other nut job that's out there.
Yeah, if you want to put your vote behind Alpa if they're fielding a candidate somewhere, fine, okay, that's okay. But you've only got the one vote. You have to remember that.
Yes, you have only 1 vote in this election, folks, and that also brings us to we're talking about fucking Sunak's announcement. I'm going to play his fucking crap anyway. So we better get a move on. Actually, I might go have time.
Yeah,
right,
please.
So First Minister's question was all about Michael Matheson.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's got a 27-day suspension. He's going to get his wages off.
Michael Matheson, as David reminded me, is the bloke that gave his Apple iPad to his son to watch football, and he racked up a bill of like £11,000. Was that something like that? Yeah. So
anyway, it was all about him, and Swinney says, "Listen, we're contesting that because the chair of that committee who handed that punishment down had already demanded that Matheson resign. Yeah. So therefore, the outcome of that committee, it was already prejudiced by the chair. Yeah. So John just slapped him on for First Minister's questions because they both went on it, and he went, "No, we're disputing this. We're going to take it on." Annie Wells, who chaired that, had already made demands that Matheson stood down. So the committee was prejudiced before it sat. Yeah. Right, let's move on. David Lammy, Shadow Foreign Secretary.
Yes, the man who committed suicide twice.
Aye, but anyway, it's taken a week for us to filter through, David. Because he's only just got back, so the UK press has only been able to address this, right? Yeah. David Lammy, Shadow Foreign Secretary, has been in the USA sucking up to Trump and the loony right wing in America. Lammy tells Trump's party that he's a conservative with a small c. Oops. Wow. man, his constituents are going to be fucking mad, and they know.
Yeah,
They've been voting up for 20 years thinking he was a socialist.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, so he's sitting in a seat down there in where is it again? St Pancras.
Aye. Yeah.
He's sitting down there in a seat in St Pancras, Holborn and St Pancras, under false pretences, David. David, stop moving like that. Can't you see? We go see all kids.
No, it's Holborn and St Pancras. I'm just looking it up.
Holborn and St Pancras. So for 20 years he's been squatting in that seat under false pretences. And while he's there, he also says that Mandela would be opposed to the protests about Palestine. Well, the guy that's running against him in the seat, he
was in Mandela's assembly, wasn't he?
Aye, Andrew Feinstein.
Yeah.
Quite a Jewish name, actually.
Yeah.
Right. He was in Mandela's party. He was in Mandela's first administration. So he told Lamy where to get off, didn't he? But just to top it off, Nelson Mandela's grandson wrote Gohala.
Just call him grandson. Aye, okay.
Mandela. He is a go at Lamy and all. Imagine David Lamy standing up and saying the guy who and cited the violent protests that are going on at American campuses. Well, as far as we know, it's the cops that are doing that. But more importantly, there are agitators causing these problems. But he was saying that Mandela would be against violent protests. Mandela was a fucking terrorist for years. He did take up arms, Mandela, and then put them down again.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to.
Yeah.
That's what he was in jail for.
Yeah. Even Maggie Thatcher, in the end, had to stop calling him a terrorist. Yeah. So.
But is there something? Lamy's always like ignorant of what went on back at the end of apartheid, and very ignorant of Mandela's views. For a start, South Africa, since the end of apartheid there, have been full on supporting the Palestine state. And Mandela was at the forefront of that.
Yeah.
Anyways, you pointed out Lamy's a second time room cause and he come in and play goes through and said, you couldn't make it up.
Hang on a second. I'm going to load this. That's all the bullets in, right? Okay.
Bang, bang, bang. Yeah. Russian roulette with a full fucking cartridge. Barrel, But anyway, bullet in every fucking chamber. Right, let's move on. There's been calls for David Cameron to resign.
Oh, yes.
And that is because the ICC, which we'll get a wee bit more later, are starting to issue arrest warrants. And in the wider scope, they're looking at nations being complicit.
Okay, the International Criminal Court have been attacked on many occasions in the past through issuing arrest warrants for certain people and not following through. I would hope in this occasion that they do follow through. Yeah?
Hold on, I need to answer your Wally's bucket here. We need to arm ourselves. Something big is coming. No, we don't. We've got modern ways of doing civil disobedience. You can forget that for a minute. Yeah. If you want to know
absolutely.
We can have a debate on it.
Yeah, absolutely not. If you want to destroy what's out your front door and turn it into rubble, then take up arms. See if you want to keep it in one piece, then you do it peacefully. You do it the right way. Simple as that.
But David, we're in the 21st century. We've got technological ways of creating civil disobedience. The fucking front room.
Yes, absolutely.
And you and I have discussed these things through the years.
Yes.
And we've even orchestrated an attack on David Mundel's show.
Yeah.
When we had our members, our groups, email the bugger and crash his server.
Yeah.
We had 10,000 people email Mundell at one time. His computer went in fucking fire.
Yeah. No, I don't think that. But anyway, you can imagine.
Incapacity his constituency office. Now, if we up that to 100,000 and pick a government department and flood their systems, it's going to incapacitate a government department, especially if they're still running on Windows Windows 7 or Windows XP, for fuck's sake. Anyway, there's calls for... Let's get back on chat here. We've got a lot today. There's been calls for Cameron to resign as the ICC start looking to the ICJ issue warrants for the rest of and in this case, it's Netanyahu it's his foreign secretary. We'll put it up in a minute when we get and 3 members of Hamas. But as I say, there's calls for Cameron to resign. The UK and the US are complicit, and there could well be arrest warrants down the road for the UK foreign secretary and the equivalent position in Germany and America, and so on and so forth.
Well, yeah, David Cameron, I'll just say this quickly because I do want us to get on to the next bit. David Cameron is a woeful act of non-democracy, because here we have a gentleman who, if the Conservatives end up with taking the number 10 Downing Street win, he would continue as Foreign Secretary right the way through that, because he's not actually an elected official. Yeah, he was made a Lord, and then he was given the title of Foreign Secretary of the UK. That's anti-democratic.
That's just a quirk in the UK system where they can take some muppet for the Lords, some has-been drunken old soup, and give him an official title back in government, you know.
But think of it this way, David. It could be the thin end of the wedge.
Right. Anyway, Starmer would bottle on it because he could well be in power when these elections start getting issued, and he's taking the same stance.
So my class action. He's saying class action says I'm predicting a hung parliament.
Aye, talk about election anyway. Rishi Sunak's called the general election for the 4th of July, and it's landed him in shite with his own party, isn't it? Because his MPs didn't want it this early, so apparently there's a flurry of letters going into the 1922 committee trying to oust him before Parliament's paroled.
How many letters does it take to actually get it up as a party election? How many letters does it actually take? Is it 50, 52, is it, or something like that?
Somewhere in the 50. It's going to be, I can't remember what percentage it is, but I don't know about that.
If anybody knows, maybe stick it up in the comments side.
Aye, because although we do know, I don't have it in the forefront of my mind, David.
Yeah.
So Sunak calls this election. Now, we've got the video there. I was going to put it up, but we don't have time now, David.
Yeah.
We don't. And in this, he's talking about he's sticking to the plan and all that. He's talking about migration, being weaponised from outside against the state, things like that. He talks about internal threats, once again, hinting at the SNP and things like that. He talked about Labour not having a plan. Well, on that we can agree with him. We can agree with him on that, because nobody knows what the fuck Labour stands for at the moment. Nobody.
Thank you. There's a few just about 47 or 57. But maybe look it up later.
We'll talk about the percentage of the MPs it's going to be. It changes depending on many of the vote. Remember, the amount of MPs that vote has been shrinking. As they get the boot, as they have to stand down for being perverts and all sorts of vagabonds. You know, in fact, Truth to Power, he did a wee video on Saturday which went through all the wazzocks that have had to leave the Commons because of misbehaving. So,
David, go on. I'll ask you a question that you probably you do know the answer to. Does this mean it's possible that it's not going to be a general election?
If they can oust them.
With the prorogue parliament.
If they can oust them and get a new leader in who could approach the king and say, "Oh, put the brakes on this."
Yeah.
The king will do it. Yeah.
Or would Big Ears, King Big Ears, do you think he would say to the new person, "Oh no, I've already said it's got to be an election, and that's it, character." He has the power to do that. He's got the power to do that, doesn't he?
Technically, but I don't think he would do it. I think he'd just accept it and say, "Okay, we'll just you can continue until you decide to hold it." The new leader. But so 4th of July, and as we know, it was asked earlier why the 4th of July. Let's just explain. His kids are registered to start school in California in the fucking autumn. You know, you'd be lucky if Sunak's at the coon. He knows
Yeah.
he's losing
Do
his blood.
I know something? Honestly, see when the count actually takes place, and it gets to these places in England. Keep an eye out to see if Sunak is there, right? Because I actually believe that he'll already be in California.
I think he'll be at that point on a taxpayer-funded jet with his family to get there.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So we have a general election now, folks, and as we know, it's going to be a dirty campaign.
Oh yeah.
Oh, let's see what legend we've got today. Don't know whose number that is, so I'm not answering it.
How do we know the votes won't be rigged? Well, that's
We don't.
basically we don't. That's up to you. In this situation, this is a Westminster election, and you've got no power over that.
Nah. But hey, now folks, that reminds us, get your voter ID. If you can't get voter ID, ask for a postal vote. Here in Scotland, unfortunately, you have to download a form and post it to the Electoral Commission.
Yeah.
And you've only got until the 19th of June to get it done.
So, hurry.
Whereas you used to be able to just phone up the electoral office, your local electoral office and your local council and say, give us a postal vote and that would be it done. Or you can go and put a wee tick in their votes and they send you a postal vote. But no anywhere. You've got to download a form, you've got to send it. This is all part of gerrymandering the vote, folks. Which has been openly admitted by Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yeah.
And that would be contempt of that would just be corruption with the electoral system. And they should all be in fucking jail for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, by the way, when we're talking about this, it appears that Labour have just been fined for breaking electoral law. I don't know what the fuck that was all about. I didn't have time to get into it. And there was also a vote in Parliament to throw rogues, vagabonds and perverts out if they're charged by the police. And that only passed for one vote. The Tories didn't want it. Right, now back to the election. The folks, as I say, this is going to be a really dirty election, but the SNP are just going to be up against Labour, Lib Dem, Tory and Greens. They're going to be up against Sky. They're going to be up against the BBC. They're going to be up against the Telegraph. They're going to be up against the Guardian. They're going to be up against all the mainstream media. So we are going to have to win this campaign the way we won the 2007 campaign. And that is start now and start on your social media. Now, you're all keyboard warriors. You all have your own social media platforms. Start battering at the memes, telling people what it is the SNP have achieved. The free dental for the under 25s, the free bus passes, all that sort of thing. The better social contract we have and how much we stand to lose if we let these unions in here in Scotland. All right. So it's time to use up your shoe leather and batter the shit out your keyboards. And for all these loon balls out there that think the Alpha Party or the Greens are going to be the ones to be the way forward, all you're doing is splitting the vote. The Alpha Party are still no polling, and they aren't going to poll. And in the general election, the Greens aren't polling either here in Scotland. So all you're doing is wasting a fucking vote. A vote that can be shoving us on towards independence. So if you're a pro-independence supporter, you're part of that 1.98 million people who have said they're going to vote SNP. Get out and vote SNP. As Swinney told the BBC, we're sticking with him as planned, and when we win the majority of seats, we'll be looking for Westminster to give effect to that. He never said what's going to happen when they say no, but he said he's sticking to the plan. So if you want to waste your vote on the Alpha Party, who are just wasting their money, sorry, their members' money, if you want to vote for the Greens, you're just splitting the vote. Now you're going to let a union through in the middle in some seats. That's not productive to get us towards independence. So whether you like it or no, if you're a pro-independence supporter, odd your nose and put your X in the SNP box.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So it's the only possible way you're going to make change happen.
Right, we've got a couple of subjects to cover, and we've only got a couple of minutes to do it. Let's look at inflation rates down to 2.3% this week.
You say.
Aye. Anyway, the underlying rate's 4% still. Food price inflation at 4%. The RPI is at 5.4%, and the Bank of England are not happy with the level of wage price inflation as well. So there will be no changes. Sunak tells us we've turned the corner. Tell that to the people who are still feeling the fucking crunch. Electric prices are still 200% higher than they were in 2020.
Right.
Your granny can't afford to feed herself or heat her house. Or if in England it's even worse, because they're paying for prescriptions. So buy medicine, buy food, or heat your house. Poor fuckers.
And they're paying for the water, which is starting to poison a few of them. You know that, don't you?
Aye, but more importantly, you see these cheeky bastards in there.
Yeah.
The rises they're wanting out of their customers. Do you see the report to Offwater? Down that road. Southwest Water, where all these people are getting ill. They want to stick the bills up by 91% by 2030. They want to double the bill to get shite in your water and fucking get diseased.
Yeah.
Wow. The lowest, the company is looking for the lowest increase in that road by 2030, as one of the home counties who are only looking for 24% of a rise.
It's still bananas amount of rise. When I moved into that great big house in Ingleby Barwick in England, we had zero was the cost of our water, because we didn't have a meter.
Aye.
Next door neighbour did, and I watched them, and they started off with a figure, let's call it £100 a month. 2 months later, it was up to £120 a month. You know what I mean? And it just steadily went up and up and up and up. And it's like that was just to feed the pockets of the shareholders.
You know, if people are not feeling any better off, it's been pointed out, the Bank of England are not thinking about shifting rates yet. And mortgages have went up by a couple of hundred to £300 or £400, in some cases they're unaffordable. Yeah. And the rents, of course, are matched because the landlords are mortgage holders as well.
Yeah.
You know, so, and the other thing that's interesting about the housing market at the moment is the banks and hedge funds are buying up portfolios of smaller landlords. Yeah. Hedge funds are getting into the rental market. That spells disaster. I mean, we're talking about another situation where you need red Whitesiders.
Yeah.
You know, it was back in the First World War when they had to take on the landlords because they were gouging the women because their men were always fighting.
Yeah.
That's what led to Mary Barber on the Red Clydesiders show.
Yeah.
There's now a statue over in Govan
where
they just tell the landlords to fuck off and stop paying their rent. They weren't long and come back and saying, okay, you can keep the rent where it is. With the rent marches, the rent strikes, all sorts of stuff. And we might get back here again. But hedge funds getting into the rental market is not a good thing, David.
Yeah.
Right, that covers inflation. Let's get to the ICC. Right, let's stick this video up, shall we?
Aye, go on.
And listen to the head prosecutor.
First off, give us a wee picture before you put the thing up. Give us a wee picture who we're going to see and what he's going to talk about.
It's carrying something. I can't go to the second minute. I'm going to put them up anyway, right?
Okay.
It's important that people see this because it announces the charges that he's bringing against him.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, be prepared to be stuck in a corner, David. Right, let's play this.
Reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine from at least the 8th of October 2023. The crimes include starvation of civilians, method of warfare, willfully causing great suffering, serious injury to body or health or cruel treatment, willful killing or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, as well as crimes against humanity of extermination and or murder, persecution, and allegations of crimes of committing other inhumane acts. I can also confirm today that I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defence.
That's it, just going round in circles again, David. So that's basically the charges that have been brought against these people.
Yeah.
And of course, as we know, we spoke about it a wee bit earlier in the broadcast, the International Criminal Court are looking at bringing heads of states and foreign ministers of countries that have been complicit in this genocide to justice as well. And that, of course, is what we were talking about earlier with the calls for Cameron to resign, with his unwavering support for Israel and their so-called right to self-defence. Now, we keep hearing this for the Western media. Folks, let's make this clear. If you're an occupier, an occupying force, you have a right to self-defence.
That's right. Yeah.
You are the occupying force. You are the aggressor. You're already committing an act of aggression. How the fuck can you have the right to self-defence when you are the person committing the act of aggression, the act of oppression, the act of colonisation?
Yeah.
You don't have a right to self-defence. And these so-called terrorists, I'd like to remind you what Mandela said: one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're being called extremists by Westminster. I prefer the term freedom fighter. So, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It depends on the situation you're in. In this case, Palestine's been under occupation for 75 years or more. 76, I think it is. And the people there have been ruthlessly oppressed. They have been cleared. The lands have been colonised. And now we're at the point where it's the final push to eradicate them altogether. Don't get me right, folks, this won't end in Gaza. If they get away with what's happening in Gaza, and if they manage to wipe out the population of Rafah, they're going to turn their attention to the West Bank. This lot needs to be pulled up short now.
Yeah.
But I want you all to remember.
But the problem is that the people that are behind all of it are some of the biggest powers in the world, right? You've got the USA backing them. We know that Biden is trying to go and pedal backwards over what he said, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what's this? Finally, someone says how it is. I've been heartbroken for these poor people in Palestine. Lots of people have been saying how it is. We can listen to that all the time, but what we're not getting is we're not getting actual action from some of the other large powers to stop it. That's what's needed.
I've got a wee message for Sunak. You can continue to call us an extremist.
Yeah.
All you want. We'll still be freedom fighters.
Yeah.
We don't intend to take up arms. But if we have to, I'm sure the Scottish people will. No. And there's a young comedian down there says they could take us. Yeah, we would need the people in the north to hold he says the comedian down that road. I wanted to talk about funny. So Larry the Cat on the election was brilliant on his Twitter feed, by the way. So Larry put a tweet out that said and people have been asking where I was during the announcement. He says it was pissing the rain on, and I didn't even do it in that. Yeah, that's a sort of wide variation of what he said. I put up my timeline. I thought it was brilliant. Well done, Sir Larry. That was brilliant.
At the end of the announcement, which I saw thanks to David, Rishi Sunak was absolutely soaked through, right? And it's quite funny that back in the 1980s, during when Queen Maggie sat on the throne, some certain Tories were called wets, and others were called dries, right? So that's bringing it forward. We definitely know that Sunak is a wet.
That was during the Maggie days. People disagreed with were wets, and people agreed with were dry. Is that right?
Right. That's it.
David, you and I are getting old. We've got fucking long memories.
Yeah.
Deary. Right, listen, we're on the 59 minutes mark, David, and as you know, I go to work in half an hour's time.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, just this message, I need to finish this message to Sunak. And that is, Sunak will not extremists for freedom fighters. The people of Palestine are no terrorists. They're resistance. They're resisting against an oppressor, an occupier. And the mere fact that these shower of shite in Westminster are supporting Israel is enough to show you what sort of animals they are. It shows you how cheap blood is to these bastards. And that includes people like David Lammy, Sir Keir Starmer, and other fucking apologists down there for that butcher in Israel.
Yep.
The Jewish people, let's make this clear, this isn't the Jewish people. That's that fucking butcher in Israel. Yep. And say one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, I suppose. Or one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter. Right, Dave, we need to wind this one up. We hope you found it interesting, we hope you found it informative, and we hope you found it entertaining. Now, this is your bit, David, about the social media platform thing.
Yeah, again, I'm pleading with people that are watching to take up the subscription for the channel, because it alters the algorithm, that changes the amount that we actually get paid from Google for the ads that they put up on this.
Well, so some of you, you're behaving next week to sort that.
Yeah, well, I won't be getting up to my cabin, which is where I need to go to do it.
Well, I'll get somebody up there to get your wee notebook done with the details in it.
Right, okay.
You get sorted, David. There's the meaning of the bank details again. And I can't do it. You go there.
I'll claim it by bum. There you go.
You can ask your way up.
Right. Anyway, so and also, if you liked what we did, please give us a like. Smash the like button, because that always helps as well. And be careful out there.
Right, there was 270 odd of you watching. Thanks very much. Daily Blase, thanks for sticking to the end. I know it was a long time, my man. It's as busy as you. And I'd see Reagan Elite didn't make it today, but Daily Blase, Reagan Elite, Political X, Big Madge, all shorts, Max Milner Ropesphere, all good broadcasters on YouTube. As well as you get Martin Day, you've got Independence Live, and they tell me Gordon Ross has got a YouTube channel on the going on. Yeah. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. That just leaves one thing left today, David.
Bye, Davey. Bye, guys.
Bye, David. Bye, folks. That's great viewing figures, by the way.